Hi, we are in the second video of HRM topic. So in the previous video, we stopped at recruitment on the external recruitment. So we have discussed that external recruitment, meaning that you are trying to obtain a pool of applicants from outside of your organization. But another form of recruitment is internal recruiting or internal recruitment, meaning that you as managers turn to existing employees within our existing organization to fill up the open positions. So we make through newsletter, through emails, notification, uh, uh, to inform about the new position within our organization. So the benefits of internal recruiting is that internal applicants are already familiar with the organization, and then you as managers, you already know the candidate, and then it can help boost levels of employee motivation and morale. So once the employee can see and observe that, wow, there is a chance that you as an existing employee being promoted into the higher level position, so that can serve as a motivation, or that can boost the morale of the existing employees within organization. However, the disadvantages is that your pool is very limited, only towards the existing employees. And then candidates set in organization, in the organization, in organization's way, meaning to say that it is what it is. You get employee with the same culture, with the same mindset. Sometimes it is a positive thing, but then sometimes when you want to invent a new ideas, when you want to embark into a new possibilities, sometimes they might have the same existing culture like the rest of your employees within the organization. So a lack of suitable, sometimes you don't have the right candidate for that particular position. Honesty in recruiting. One of the term being used in the HRM or in organization nowadays, in which they call that as realistic job preview. It is an honest assessment of the advantage and disadvantage of a job and organization, can reduce the number of new hires who quit when jobs and organization fail to meet their unrealistic expectation. So what they will do under realistic job preview is that they will give you some time in order for you to test out. You can come into the organization and work for at least 1 or 2 days, have a feel about what this job would require from you as a newly appointed employee. So you can make your own personal assessment with all the things that you have to perform for that particular job, and then you can make a better decision why they opt for this RJP type of approach, because sometimes the number of employee, newly hired employee, who quit the job after they are being offered is quite high for some organization. So this will incur a lot more cost for the organization to rehire, to do all the recruiting process again. So in order for them to in order to avoid from making a wrong decision in selecting the candidate for that particular post, so they offer a realistic job preview to these potential candidates, so that they can make a better decision whether or not they want to work for that particular company or not. So selection process. Managers finding out whether each applicant is qualified for the position and likely to be a good performer. So some of the selection process tools, for example, background checking from their curriculum vitae, CV, resumes, and then we call them for an interview, and then we do the test and the references. For example, through recruiting, you are able to obtain 50 potential candidates, and then there is no way that we can call all these 50 candidates to come for an interview, because that would require additional costs to the organization. So you are going to go through the selection process, so that we can shortlist the most qualified candidates. So out of 50, kita cuma nak bawa pergi interview 5 orang saja, for example. So that is part of the selection process. So what are the things that you can do? Number one, we can do background checking. We can do reference checking. Based on the references, referees that they have provided, we can call them in order for us to get a better views in terms of the previous performance of this potential candidate. And then we can call them for a test, an online test. Nak tengok in terms of aptitude test, behavioral test, IQ test. If they don't meet a certain criteria, so we are not going to call them for the next interview session. And then the last one is the interview, where we call all the 5 potential candidates for an interview session, and then we are going to employ only few of them based on the warrants that we have lah. Kalau kita cuma ada 2 saja availability, so kita panggil 5 for the interview session, and then we are going to choose the best from those interview. Sometimes the most qualified candidates is not the person that we finally hired for that particular position, because during the interview session we might have a different experience and perspective whether or not this person can actually perform that particular job. So these are some of the selection tools. Background information, we have already mentioned about this. References, pencil and paper tests, and then physical ability tests, performance tests, and then interviews. So the reliability, the degree to which the tool or test measures the same thing each time it is used. And then validity, the degree to which a tool or test measures what it purports to measure. So if you want to hire someone as an IT expert, it is okay for you to do the test in order for them to disassemble the whole CPU and then assemble back the whole parts, and then for you to see whether the CPU works or not. That is applicable, valid and reliable for that particular position. But to ask this IT engineer to do a debate or give a speech which is not relevant to their core line of activity, sometimes that might not be valid for that particular position. So the issue of reliability and validity of each of these tests need to be looked into, so that we are going to measure applicant based on what they are supposed to be measured. The next one, training and development help to ensure that organizational members have the knowledge, skills needed to perform the job effectively, take on new responsibilities, and also adapt to changing conditions. So when we talk about training, it is not only suited for newly employed employees, but our existing employees also, we need to send them to training, so that sometimes we want to expand their job scope. Kita nak buat job enlargement, for example. Sometimes we do job rotation. So in order for them to perform a new task, a new role in the organization, they need to obtain new knowledge. So training is not only should be designed for our newly employed employees, but also for our existing employees in order for them to become effective performers. Development, building the new knowledge and skills of organizational members so they are prepared to take on new responsibilities and challenges, just like what I said just now. And then need assessment of which employees need training or development and what type of skills or knowledge they need to acquire. Sometimes when we do performance appraisal at the end of the year, there is a section where your top management, your management asks you to identify what sorts of trainings that you might require for next year. So maybe through that assessment, through that simple survey, they can try to identify in terms of what are the potential training that they should offer for their existing employees in order for us to develop our knowledge to perform the job better. So there are several needs assessment that we can do through training and development. For example, for training, we can do a class instruction and then on-the-job training, meaning that we train them while they are performing the job. and then a program like apprenticeship, and which can include classroom instruction as well as on the job training. And then for the development of our existing employees, we can also do classroom instruction, on the job training, varied work experiences, and also formal education. Performance appraisal. This is the another step or another main function of HR managers. By at the end of the year, usually we are going to conduct performance appraisal so that we can evaluate employees' performance and contribution to their organization. So at this stage, we focus on evaluation of the traits, behaviors, and results. And sometimes we have both element of objective and subjective assessment. Objective assessment is in terms of the KPI. For example, number of publication, 5 publication per year. So whether or not you have achieved that one or not. And then in terms of subjective assessment on your attitude, on your leadership, on your cooperation, on your CSR activities outside of your job scope. So that could become a subjective assessment on your performance throughout the year. Now we are going to look at the subjective measures of performance. We have several types of rating scales. I'm not so sure at your organization what type of rating scales that they are using, but these are just some of the examples lah. And when we talk about subjective measures of performance, for example, a supervisor of a nurse answers the question, how would you rate the quality of care this nurse provides to patients? So kita boleh gunakan scale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 as being very high quality, 1 as being very low quality. And then a supervisor of a nurse indicates which scale point best describe the behavior of the nurse. So this is based on the behavioral performance of that particular employee. In a much simpler measures of performance, behavioral observation scale. So yang ini is much easier, the same rating, and then kita ada in terms of indicates items that best describe that particular job function of a nurse, follows doctor's orders, follows hospital procedures, eases patient fears. And so these are some of the subjective performance measures that sometimes organization can use in order to evaluate their employees. So we go to the next one. Who appraises performance? So if we are considering all of this, this is what we call a 360 degrees of performance appraisal, meaning that not only your supervisors who will evaluate you, but also we can get feedback from the customers or clients, the subordinates, and then the peers, as well as you do your self-evaluation. So organization can use any of these as a performance measure, or they can apply them all if they want to. If they want to use them all, this is what we call as 360 degree of performance appraisal. Performance appraisal and feedback. The process through which managers share performance appraisal information with subordinates, give subordinates an opportunity to reflect on their own performance and develop with subordinates plan for the future. And then effective performance feedback, formal appraisal and appraisal conducted at a set time during the year and based on performance dimension that were specified in advance, meaning that yang ni yang structured lah. And we know exactly when we are going to be analyzed, assessed by our top manager. And then informal appraisals is unscheduled appraisal of ongoing progress and areas for improvement. Sometimes the manager will walk around and observe, and then actually what they are doing is they are doing the informal appraisals on how did you perform on your particular job. All right, we don't have much time for us to cover a few more slides on this topic, but we will continue again in the following video to finish off the remaining slides of this chapter, inshallah.